these aren't the best of conditions. 4th of February for a start. It's been a dull, overcast and gloomy and quite cool day. The cloud has thinned now and it's 7 degrees centigrade as I leave home. But I'm still moth trapping anyway. It's worth giving it an hour, even if it's just an hour. Well, I've arrived at my destination, which is Gamston Wood. I've not gone too far into the wood, and I'm going to give it an hour, see how it goes, see if we get anything at all in this hour. 6 centigrade, and as I look out of the window now, it is still a clear sky. It is still forecasted to be cloudy as well, but not anywhere near Retford, it isn't. So it's a quick setup and we get running. Well, we're off and running at a cool Gamston Wood with a start-up time of 17:50. There's certainly a big difference in the start-up time now on February the 4th to when we last trapped in the middle of January. Will we get anything with these temperatures of 6 centigrade? I'm sure something will be flying somewhere, hopefully towards the light. Well, we have a moth. That's a pale brindled beauty which has just come in. I know it's only a pale brindled beauty and it's only one moth, but at least it's a moth that's not a complete waste of time, although many of you may think, well, what are you doing coming all this way just to catch a pale brindled beauty? But hopefully we'll be catching a few more. What I really want to see is if any of these early spring species like pale brindled beauty, spring usher, Torticodes alternella, if they do fly when it's cooler than 8 degrees centigrade. That's usually the cut-off temperature that most moth trappers don't bother trapping at unless you leave the trap out overnight and go to bed and have 8 hours good sleep. But certainly this is the first time, I think, for many years, probably about 20 years to be honest, I've come out with a temperature lower than my threshold for coming out moth trapping. So we'll see what else comes in, if anything else comes in. Apart from the temperature, it's a very nice night. It's a clear sky, and at some time the moon will be rising somewhere over that direction. But we'll give it an hour at least, see what turns up. Cup of tea has. Well, a chestnut has sneaked in as well, probably came in at the same time as the pale brindled beauty here, and there is another pale brindled beauty flying just around the sheet. This is a nice little start. I anticipate that we may get a few moths, certainly in this first hour, and the number of moths flying will decline as we potentially go into a second hour. Just depends what we get. But at least we have 3 moths now to write down in the book. And here's a closer look at that pale brindled beauty. They're not particularly colourful or impressively marked or beautifully marked, but they can be quite nicely marked and quite attractive. They do vary to a degree. This is probably a very average pale brindled beauty. Occasionally you can get the dark form, in which the wings are a slaty grey to black coloration. But when the temperature is only 6 degrees centigrade and you've travelled 12-13 miles to near Retford, you hope to catch a moth, then a pale brindled beauty is very nice indeed, at least to me. And the female is wingless. No doubt there are females scaling some of the oaks around this light. But a nice start, and one of 3 moths that are in. And just for the record, here's that chestnut. And this is, again, is pretty much your average chestnut. They do have quite a shiny appearance to the wings. It's one of the ways that you can tell chestnuts, but they're small and chunky. And this time of year, once they've been hibernating over the winter, they can start to get a little bit abraded. And the markings aren't always easy to see on chestnuts. You rather like this, with a sort of a dark chestnut and shiny, or they're very well marked. And always, as I mentioned before, usually one of the first moths into the light when you switch that light on at this time of the year. I'm pleased with 3 moths. Very pleased indeed. Quite nice drinking a cup of tea in the middle of a dark woodland or forest. Apart from the generator, it's peaceful and quiet. We're on to 7 pale brindled beauties now, and the 7th just came in a couple of minutes ago, and still just the single chestnut. I thought that something else might drop in. It may well do yet, but I still feel that moths will generally stop coming in, and it'd be interesting to see whether I see anything on the way home. There's no sign of any winter moths at all, or early moths, but I'll certainly be giving it an hour, maybe even 2, or maybe a little bit longer than an hour and a half. Play it by ear, so to speak, or play it by moth. It's still just really nice to be out. Well, we have another pale brindled beauty that's come in and decided to plonk itself down on my bag. Probably the best marked of those that have come in this evening. And of course, with this being a male, the antennae are nicely feathered, or pectinate, I believe is the correct term. A nice moth either way. Well, I'm sorry it's at a rather strange angle, but at least this pale brindled beauty looks a lot fresher than those that I've showed you so far this evening. This is a nicely marked moth. They are a particular favourite of mine. I know they don't look a deal, but I don't know whether it's just that early in the year or late in any year, when the nights are cooler, just to see a moth is something. maybe I'm easily pleased, but I just love to catch the first pale-brindled beauty. And at one time that used to occur in late January or February or sometimes March, but now you can quite easily catch a pale-brindled beauty if you're in woodland before Christmas in most years. How times have changed, especially flight times. And if you look at flight times in books, just use them as a rough guide. As I've said before, moths can't read, so they don't know when they're meant to fly. But despite its lacklustre appearance, shall we say, I do still love a pale-brindled beauty. Well, the temperature's now actually gone down to 5 according to my trusty clock and thermometer. It feels like 5, I must admit, but there are still 3 pale-brindled beauties that are happily fluttering around the sheet and the light and the surrounding vegetation. You may well be able to see one on the track just to the left of the screen. We're currently on 9 pale-brindled beauties. There's one coming in from the background there. So even at 5 degrees centigrade, moths are flying. Well, I've had an hour here at Gamston Wood. The temperature is still 5 centigrade, may well soon drop to 4. There's a little bit of a breeze and it is generally cool, but at least I've caught some moths this night. Has indeed served a purpose. I know I've only had an hour, but I'm quite happy with that hour. And I've caught some moths, which primarily was what this little outing was for. Like all moth trappers, you tend to develop itchy feet by not being able to get out and trap, but at least in today's milder winters, at least here in the UK, I know some people in other parts of the world are suffering at the hands of snow and ice, but here in the UK we're fortunate to have the jet stream over us for the majority of the time and providing us with milder conditions, much milder conditions than 40 or 50 years ago. There probably wasn't a deal of winter moth trapping conducted when I was a lad.